Welcome back to another Improving a Crap kit. We've got the RMS099 Rick Diaz. And we're going to continue making this kit better. So as you can tell here, we have made a lot of progress, and we've evened out a lot of seam lines. I've gone through the whole process and separated everything out, and it is a dusted boy. All right, what we're going to do today is we're going to start on the next episode of making this crap kit better, and we're going to start some panel scribing. Okay, so for today we are going to use the Tamiya panel scribe hook pin whatchamajig. Essentially what this is this is a plastic Scriber 2. It is pretty accurate. I mean, what you've got right here at the very tip, and I'm not sure if you can see this. Can you see that? Okay. At the very tip there is a chisel at the very edge of this, and it's got a bevel on it so that it makes a V cut. It actually makes a V cut in the plastic. What we also have is this little scriber tool, and it's just a pointed scriber tool. We are going to use both of those tools that can be found at any hobby store or on Amazon. Very easily found, not very expensive, and we're going to begin and take those pieces and make them better. I also forgot to mention we will use just a regular everyday pencil, and I think we're ready to start scribing. Let's do it. So the first thing that you want to do is really get a good idea of where you want your panel lines to be. This is where a pencil comes in really handy. For instance, this piece right here. Again, very dusty, but it should work just fine because we're still in the hard modification mode. We haven't gotten to painting or even plot plate or anything that will be coming in the future. So we're still good to go without doing a lot of cleanup, because we're actually going to make more of a mess with scribing some of these lines. What we want to do is really just kind of trace out what type of shape that we're going to end up putting as a scribe line, as a new panel onto this kit. I found out from a guy that I do hobbies with that this suit was actually from a different series. I think it was Zeta, where it was definitely not Char, but it was Char. So let's start sketching some things out here, shall we? We'll start with a line across there as a guideline, and then maybe just take that to the edge. What do you think? Let's try that out. Okay, so we'll use that as a trial. Another thing that I almost forgot to mention was this stuff right here. This is called Dymo, D-Y-M-O tape. There's a couple of different varieties of this stuff, but what you really want to find is the thicker stuff. Usually it's a darker color, because as this is imprinted upon, embossed with a little printing press inside one of those machines, it makes a different color. See how that turned different color? That's what you're looking for. This stuff is a little bit thicker, and it puts up with a little more abuse, but it's still very flexible. It's also got a sticky back, so good stuff. So we're just going to snip some pieces. You can just use your nippers. Make that a straight edge again, and we're going to snip some pieces off of here. That's pretty good. We'll take a look at our piece. We're only going to need a small portion of that, so we can take this guy in half. All right, yeah, it's a pretty fair fit. this stuff is actually the secret ingredient to getting pretty straight lines. So I'm not sure if you can really see what I've done here is I have wrapped that around, and you can see the stress marks on it where it's wrapping around the curvature of this piece. It gives it very good coverage, and it appears by the eye at least to be even with the bottom piece, so that we have a straight line that is parallel to the lower line that naturally comes at the end of this edge armor of the kit. Now with this piece, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to cut this at a little bit of a wave right down the center. And the reason that we're going to do that is so that we don't get our straight edges mixed up. See there? That way this side's straight and this side's straight, but we know where our straight edges are and we're not going to make a mistake. I think I learned that one from Not So Average Builder online on YouTube. If you haven't seen his stuff, definitely go and check out what he's working with, because it's pretty great, y'all. Okay, so this is what we've got right now, and that's going to go along with the pattern that we already made, and I've just put these other pieces over the other one here. You'll notice that this stuff is pretty thick. It can be a little hard to manage depending on what kind of tight curves you're actually putting it around, but I've found that you can mainly just pop it and over the other piece and still get a good performance out of it. Now you'll see why I wanted to do all these pieces at once instead of just laying one, doing a scribe, laying another, doing a scribe. What I found is that I slip a lot. Again, I've mentioned I'm heavy-handed, and that's a problem with this stuff. You have to let the tool do the work. You have to let the tool do the work. So we're going to start with our pointed scribe. Pointed scribe is just, again, you know, it's just like a pencil. It's sharpened like a pencil. So it funnels down to a tip at the end, and it's omnidirectional. It's not a V-cut like the Tamiya is. So it takes less off, it takes less material off, and it kind of gouges and scrapes instead of removing material. You'll see in a moment, this Tamiya removes material. And again, there are a lot of chisels out there in the world that are meant for doing this kind of work, but I don't have any. And I'm trying to teach you guys how you can make some of this stuff work on your crab kits without spending a lot of money, possibly with the tools you already have. Okay, so I just basically went over that area about 3 or 4 times using this tape as a guide the whole time. What you're going to do next is go over about another 3 to 4 times with this. I say 3 to 4 times because it really is a personal preference as to how deep you want these lines to be. This is a 1/144, so I'm going to try to go fairly light, but if this was a 1/100, you would probably want to go a little deeper. Another thing is, because this is a chisel, or it's a tapered tip, it's not like a regular chisel. It's a V tip at the very tip, so it's not a flat bottom to the groove. It's a V bottom to the groove. So the more you gouge, the deeper it goes, but also the wider that panel line is going to get. You have to keep that in mind, and I do suggest that you get some ply plate, or you get a kit that you've messed up or you've given up on, or what have you, or maybe just some extra plastic in a box, and try this out before you get to the regular thing. Otherwise, if you're like me, you're going to try it out on a kit that you're feeling really, really good about experimenting with, and it's going to disappoint you. I'm going to sit it right in the groove, the very tip of that, right in that groove, okay? And we're just going to let the tool do the work. And you'll see a little curl plastic came out there. Again, right in the tip, and let the tool do the work. And you also want to try to get this as smooth as possible. Any of that like I'm doing here, and you will be able to see a little bit of that when it's done. There we go. There we go. That was okay. And you see the curls at the very tip of that? See that? That's what I'm talking about right there. It's actually removing material. So let's go over this one more time. Okay. Now the big reveal. We'll take this off of here. we'll try to wipe away that graphite. And now this is what you have. Now this doesn't look like much, but it will take paneling solution and it will look good when we're done. Okay, let's try another piece. So let's see here. Do we want to do this piece again? How about we try something a little bit larger on this side and a little more involved. So back to the Dyno Tape. We're going to cut down the center, and again, remember your key line, and your key line is just going to be something like, if you've ever made molds before, this is something that you would do to make a notch in the mold so that it goes back together the right way. But what we're wanting to signify by our key line in it not being straight like that is to make sure that we're only using the flat surfaces and we're not using a curved surface that we could be, you know, cutting this in half with. So really make that designation, because you don't want to put everything together and then realize you're actually scribing on a crooked line. That is no good. I'm using a hobby knife to take the backer off of some of these that I don't split in half, just for ease, because I've got big fat fingers and sometimes this paper on the back does not want to come off. That is infuriating. Okay, so just like last time, we're going to go over this a few times with our pointed scribe, and then we're going to remove some material with the Tamiya scribe. And as you can see, it does take off some material, but it's not like the Tamiya. The Tamiya is much more aggressive, and the biggest reason that we're going to use this pointed scribe first is to give the larger, more aggressive Tamiya scribe something to follow. It's basically just giving it something more than the tape to follow through, and so that we don't have as much chance. It's still a chance, but not as much of a chance of getting kind of wild. It's almost the reverse of whenever we did our filing and sanding, where we start with something more aggressive with the filing, then we move to the sanding. With this one, we start with something less aggressive to make a path for our more aggressive tool. There we go. Now we're going to keep this top piece and everything here still here. The scratch that I've got there is not that bad, because I was letting the tool do the work, so it just kind of skipped over the surface. Honestly, whenever we go to, I mean, it's barely catching a fingernail. Whenever we go to prime this, more than likely that's going to get filled in. But what I want to show you is something that you may have noticed, you may not have noticed, on other kits that come with panel lines. There's a little bit of a method to the Gunpla panel line madness. We'll start with another piece here. We will make sure that we put our key cut, and the key cut also does help with peeling this paper away. Use a section that is roughly the center, but you know what? To do the center, let's go ahead and align down the side, and that'll be kind of a guideline to make sure that we're staying on center. With these parts, some of the curves and things like that, it can really throw you off if you're only eyeballing it. And I've seen some fantastic people out there, even YouTubers, that can just eyeball some scribe and just go for it. I am not that talented. So the next thing we want to look at, we're going to take our next piece and we're going to start a little farther down. But what we want to do is we want it to end roughly at that corner. How would you do that? Well, I'm glad you asked. So we're going to go ahead and cut this. If I'm not mistaken, panel lines love to be and look good at approximately a 30-degree angle. I could be wrong on my measurements there and my degrees, but that's what I'm guessing that it is. So we're going to go ahead and put this up here like so. And again, this stuff doesn't have to be perfect, but if it's really close, you'll see a big difference. and that's what we're looking for, okay? So that you can see there's a lot of Dyno tape here. There's a lot of Dymo tape here. But that's what we've done. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow this edge down, over, and then off. Okay? Let's do this. All right. We're going to work towards the tape, because if we were working this way, there's nothing to stop it here, and then we could shoot up and really mess up our panel line. And I'm just testing it out a little bit there, and I can get around that corner pretty well. So this is where things are going to get a little more difficult, and control is going to be an issue because this is an odd shape. When we try to hog this out, look, I'm using woodworker terms because that's what I traditionally am as a woodworker, but you're basically removing tons of material with this guy. In order to do that, we need to be really careful. So remember, work towards your tape, pull towards your tape, or towards an edge that you're going off of. And that'll make things really, really easy compared to freehanding or trying to precisely stop this tool. Now you can see that some of this, including right there, right in there, I jumped over this plastic a little bit. It scratched that plastic, okay? That would have been on your kit that you'd have to fix if this wasn't there. It's just, that's as simple as it is. All right, now for the reveal. And that's what we have. And that's what you have on that side. So it's looking pretty good. All right, so gray is all I could find. Let's see if this thing's got any life in it, and I'll show you a little more of what this is gonna look like when it's done. Okay, and then here we go. All right, so this is a little better, right? A little better. I will show you one other thing though that is as easy as having a sharp X-Acto blade. So what you'll want to do is you can even reuse a full-size width piece of your Dymo tape, and you want to try to get it right in the center and straight as possible. Then you want to use that as a edge guide to make a line right there. You're just going to press into it and cut, and a line right here. Again, you're just pressing in and cutting. I'm a little bit off there, but that's okay. Then you'll take small shavings all the way to that line. You have to be very careful. You'll hit that line and that shaving will break. This is again something that is very similar to woodworking. Make those lines a little deeper. And the hobby knife needs to be very, very sharp. It needs to be a new blade. And be very careful, guys, because a lot of times you could be cutting towards yourself, and if you're cutting towards yourself, that is a risk of cutting yourself pretty bad. I know some people who have been hospitalized, who have had to go to the hospital due to a X-Acto knife slip. We're going to turn around and do the same thing on the other side, coming towards that line. Be very, 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 very careful. Please be careful. Okay, and once you've got this, you start to see that notch is beginning to appear. And this is pretty thick. This is a pretty thick part of the plastic right now. So what we want to do is once again break out the handy dandy files, because this is going to make pretty quick work of this now that we've got it to a point where we've got a good edge going. And we're going to go ahead and make sure this is filed down. Again, you really don't want to use much, if any, pressure when it comes to this, and you're going to want to use a flat file. You just let that file do the work. Okay, that's fair. That's a fair job. That's a fair job that we have there. Okay, but as you can see, now that's got a groove in it, and you've probably seen that at some point on different kits that you've made. They'll have these little panel grooves, And so what that's going to do for our kit, once we put it back on, that's going to make it look much different to have that panel groove in there, along with our new line here and our new line here. Cool. And just for comparison, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and add some more panel lines to the rest of this kit, especially in the red areas where it's going to be easier to see them later on, because we're going to keep this kit red even though we're probably going to go through the repainting process and all that. And I think that pretty much does it for us today. Great. Okay, so one thing that I want to remind you guys of, you'll want to go over all of these freshly scribed lines with some sandpaper. And the reason for that is that you will have a little bit of a raised edge where you've manipulated the plastic and scored everything for your new panel lines. Not anything severe. You definitely don't want to hit it with the file after doing that. Just a light grade of sandpaper. Even just the buffing pads that I had mentioned to you guys before, the emery boards, just to make sure that that one little raised portion goes away and you've still got a flat piece. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this stuff done and get prepared for the next episode in this series. If you want to build this kit or similar, the Rick Diaz, with me, I've actually included my Amazon affiliate link below. Go ahead and feel free to click on that and it'll take you to a kit that's similar to this one. I couldn't find the red version, but I could find a version. So I'm sure it was same molds and same everything, just a different color. And you can build along with me and this series to make this crap kit better. Now remember, Gunpla is freedom, so you don't have to go along with anything that I'm doing here in order to make a kit better. You can do it your way. As far as the design of the panel lines or how numerous they are, or maybe to not notch some of the pieces like I've started doing here with the leg armor. Next in this series is going to be going over how to add plastic sheets that you can also find at your local hobby store. So again, to build along, go ahead and hit that Amazon affiliate link. I do get a kickback from that, just saying. And anything else that you may buy via hitting that link, it's not going to be any cost to you whatsoever, but they are kind enough to give me a small portion of the proceeds that you spend after clicking that link. And I appreciate it because it can allow me to buy more things and show you guys how to make crap kits like this better. Until next time, keep daydreaming about Gunpla out there, daydreamers. I'm Justin, your ragtag daydreamer, and I'll see you next time. Until next time, keep